So on June 26th of 2018, I can specifically recall my son Israel being called up to CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and my wife took him up there. He needed to get some additional lab work and speak to a hematologist. He, over the course of maybe 10 weeks, kept having these different illnesses that were common amongst a lot of the children that were coming into the pediatrician. And so they felt like, it was just kind of him getting sick from other kids, not necessarily anything serious. But upon my wife's arrival, talking to the hematologist, he mentioned that he looked at Israel's lab work, and that he felt like everything was going to be okay. So he sent my wife home. My wife was on her way home, and before she could pull in the driveway, she got a call to bring up my son Israel, at the time who was 4 years old, and to pack an overnight bag. My wife called me at work, and I knew that there was something wrong. And so, I sped back to our house. I said, hey, let's go up together. And we got my parents to watch my other children. And we just went up there, and we prayed a lot, and we just, really did our best to cheer Israel up, because he was a little bit concerned and unknowing as to what was going on. Unfortunately, when we arrived and we met with the doctor told us that there was no easy way to say it, so he was just going to tell us. He said, your son has cancer, and he has something called ALL Type B. And I can just share with all of you that really, it just rocked my world. It was something that was so difficult to digest. And I remember taking my fingernails and digging them into my hand, because I could just feel the tears coming down my face. And I didn't want my son Israel to see me, because I didn't want him to be concerned or worried about what that meant for him. I didn't want him to see fear in my eyes and then equate that to maybe fear that he would have to face. When we met with our team of doctors, they basically said, listen, from where we were in the emergency room with the hematologist, we immediately got sent up to a room for pediatric oncology. And we met with a group of probably 13 or 14 different specialists, and our main doctor, Dr. Tajan. And what we were told was that there was no way for them to be able to tell exactly what we were looking at in terms of Israel's illness. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to basically bomb his system with everything that they had, over the course of 24 hours, and then they were going to reevaluate and test. So Israel had a bone marrow chip, which is where they actually go in and they have to chip the bone. He had a bone marrow extraction, where they had to actually pull fluid out of the bone marrow. He had a spinal tap. He had to have his port put in. And amidst all of this, we don't really know what's going on. He didn't really know what was going on. And I distinctly remember Israel telling me, Daddy, what did I do wrong? Did I take a dirty bath, or, did I eat too much candy? And so it was a tough time. My wife and I really, really leaned on each other, but we also really struggled a lot, with finding out that your son has cancer, and we don't really know what the outcome is going to be. After his tests were completed and they came back to us, Israel was told that with the type of cancer that he had, that it was going to be a 30-day in-house treatment. So we would remain in the hospital. So we probably spent like 3 weeks there. And then after that process, we were released, and that treatment would continue at home. Now, they gave us an encyclopedia, and when I say encyclopedia, I mean a book about this big with all of his medicines, with all of the different things that we had to remember. There were certain times of the day that we had to administer different medications, and it was really scary. As a parent, even somebody that is reliable and accountable, I was fearful, like, what happens if we miss a medicine? What happens if we give a wrong medicine? A lot of times you had to cut medicines up, or you had to measure the medicines, and certain medications couldn't be mixed with other medications. And, it's really scary because you don't want to do something wrong. And then the other side to that is, what are the side effects from all these medications that Israel is taking? And there's a lot of scary, information and warnings inside of those labels. And so Are we giving him a medication that's only going to kill him later? And that's something that we had to talk about. And so I share all this with you because was the most difficult time in my life and in my family's life. We went through a lot of hardship during this period. It's almost 3 years later. And there were a lot of times where Israel wasn't receptive to the treatment, especially towards the end, and we were afraid we were going to lose him. Um, Life hasn't always dealt us the best cards. And I know for a lot of people that are listening to this, you may be thinking to yourself, is it ever going to get better? And what I can share with you is it always gets better. If I had to list the things that I value and hold on to that are the core of who I am as a human being, I would say God is the center focus of my life. He's created everything for me. Inside of that is also my family. My family is the foundation. They're the building blocks. They're what keeps everything structured and in place. And then you have to take care of yourself. Amidst Israel's illness, I had to remind myself that if I wasn't taking care of myself, making sure that I was eating and that I was getting rest and that I was exercising, that I wouldn't be as strong as I knew I needed to be for him. So many of you going through those very difficult, challenging moments in your life, please understand, yes, you want to give every waking moment to be with those people that you love and care about. And at the same time, you have to take care of you. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the person that you care about and you love, and you're trying to make sure that they see the next breath and the next day. The other piece to this is work carried on for me, and what I can say again is that work has been something that has been a long process. It's been years and years that I've gone through really being able to deal with some of the challenges that you can foresee. And through a lot of those struggles and a lot of those times where I didn't know what was going to materialize, and I really struggled with what the future held, I kept my focus on God. I kept my faith centered. And so some of the things that are beginning to materialize today, I dreamt about 20 years ago. 20 years ago, even before I was married, before I had any children, when I was just really kind of dreaming about what the world could look like, all of the affirmations, all of the visualization exercises, all of the boards that I put up and the Tony Robbins videos that I did, and all of the different, you know, um, seminars that I invested in, all created this stimulus inside of my mind, this visualization that became actualized. And it's now 20 years later that I'm starting to see the fruits of these labors, where doors are opening up and opportunities are becoming available, both in the podcast industries, in the video industries, in the movie industries, so many different areas. And just to be, again, really clear about my life and my purpose, it's always been about service. I'm dedicated to being of service. I've done a lot of different work, whether it's Hearts of Surfing, working with children with autism, or it's working over at the Funny Farm, the animal rescue farm, and being able to help, work with people that are trying to create environments that are safe for the animals. And I've always believed in the environment, taking care of the environment, and it takes care of you. And so I'm literally in the middle of watching a dream that I've always wanted to come to fruition happen right before my eyes. And I just want you to know that it wasn't without pain and hardship, that this came through walking through some of those deep valleys and going through some of the most painful places in my life, but still believing, not letting go that there's something greater out there, not letting go that my son's going to be alive and he's going to see the other side of something that's going to be more beautiful than what he experienced that was so detrimental. That's available for all of us. You just have to hold on to that dream. You have to know that it's real, and then you have to keep breathing life into it over time. And before you know it, your dream becomes your reality.